Alrighty, so because it is a short week, we go from doing a review to now doing the preview in terms of the weekend's action. And what's interesting about the weekend's action for match week number 12 is that it seems like we're going backwards in terms of how these games is going to take place, and that, normally Sunday is usually a day where you have the fewer games and there's like the national television game, and then Saturday is kind of the busy day. Well, this week is the reverse. It seems like Saturday is the quietest day, and then on Sunday, that's where all the game is going to take place, which includes the usual busy stretch during the prime time hour of 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, all the way to around 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Pacific. Although I did look at the schedule, it seems like that is now extended into 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Yeah, that of course is going to be the case that will be found on Sunday. And I guess maybe the reason why MLS decided to do it like this is because they want to get teams an extra day rest after playing in the middle of the week. But there are some teams that did play midweek will have to play on Saturday, and I'm pretty sure those teams are not going to be happy because of that. But that being said, let us actually begin. And one of those teams that's not going to be happy about that is LAFC, and they're going to be playing against the Columbus Crew, and they probably have the harshest in turn. So of a quick turnaround with them, just playing a late night game back on Wednesday at home, and now they have to fly all the way across the other side of the country to on a short week to play against the Columbus Crew. And this game is also going to be a lunchtime kickoff, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Pacific. Well, it's a lunchtime kickoff at least for me, but the actual kickoff is 3:50 p.m. local time, which when you know that is the actual kickoff of the game, and usually when it's like a 3:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff, you know that this game is going to be on Twitter, and that, of course, is the case. Now, in terms of the all-time meeting, LAFC, of course, leads the all-time meeting at 2-0 over Columbus, as this is only the third ever meeting between both of these teams. And in terms of injuries, now, this week I decided to kind of look at some of the injuries report, and the reason why I don't look at the injuries report on the MLS website is that they're not always the most accurate, and that I did try my best in terms of seeing some of these players that is questionable that are actually not questionable, and that they actually did play in the last game. But let me know in the comments below if I got some of them wrong, because again, as I mentioned, the league website that I took in terms of the injury report is not always the most accurate one. But in terms of Columbus, only player that is out is Kevin Molino, and questionable is Marlon Harrison. For LAFC, you got Eddie Segura, Donis Gaines, Ryan Hollinshead, and questionable coming into this game is Ishmael Tajiri-Shwali, Daniel Henry, and Franco Escobar for LAFC. So, yeah, for LAFC, they're looking to bounce back in this one after they suffer a loss against Austin FC. But like I said, with a short turnaround, it's not going to be easy against a much fresher Columbus team that I don't think Columbus played during the middle of the week. I mean, I know there were 8 teams that did not participate in terms of the busy 10-game action that happened in the middle of the week, and I think the Crew is one of those teams. So they're going to be the more fresher team, and anytime when you have a fresher team play against a team that is pretty much playing their third game in 7 days, that is LAFC, that they do have the advantage, especially as we head deep into the game. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, is FC Cincinnati versus the New England Revolution. And by the way, I forgot to mention, I am actually going to do a full review where I'm not just going to split into 2 parts. I'm actually going to do the full 14 games, which of course include the 4 games that happen on Saturday, and then the 10 games that's going to be happening on Sunday. But the very next one, we got FC Cincinnati versus New England, as this game will start at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 6:08 p.m. local time. Cincinnati, obviously, they are one, if not the hottest team right now in the league, with a record of 6-1-5. I mean, this was really the first time that Cincinnati actually have a positive record ever since they came into the league. Remember when FC Cincinnati, for a brief period when they came into the league, they looked like a decent team. Yeah, and then they, of course, fall off the cliff. But when you look at how this team has played under Pat Nolan, it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. And they're going to be playing against a Revs team that is definitely desperate to get something going, because, it still feels like this Revs team is still going through the motion in terms of trying to kickstart after a slow start to the season. All-time meeting. The good news for the Revs is that they kind of dominate this meeting, 4-0-1 against FC Cincinnati, and really the only win that Cincinnati has had was the first ever meeting between both of these teams. Now, in terms of injuries for Cincinnati, you got Isaac Atanga, Alan Cruz, Calvin Harris, Alec Khan, and Ronald Matarrita not available for FC Cincinnati in this game. And for New England, the only two players that is questionable in this game is Gustavo Bol and Josie Altidore. And yeah, coming into this one, I mean, it's hard to believe I'm saying this, but Cincinnati is actually favored coming into this game. Like, how many times have I said Cincinnati is a team that is favored coming into a game? Not a lot of time, but with how they've been so good so far this season, and that I expect, TKO Stadium, we might see a packed crowd in this. I mean, there's got to be a lot of excitement in terms of Cincinnati fans, and that this is probably the first time that that word called hope is, and that I'm pretty sure Cincinnati fans are not really talking about that, because they feel like eventually this is too good to be true with them going on a good run. But when you look at how this team played, maybe it isn't too good to be true. Maybe this is finally them starting to find themselves and not only be a respectable team in MLS, but now start to be a playoff contender, because right now they are, I believe, still fourth in the Eastern Conference. That's something that I don't think anybody would have imagined coming into the season, even with the optimism that Cincinnati should not be as bad as what we've seen in the first three seasons. But now, moving on, in the next match, we got DC United versus Toronto FC. Now, this game originally was going to start early, but the kickoff was changed to 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 6:38 p.m. local time. I have no idea why that is the case. I mean, I did check the temperature to see whether or not if the heat is a factor, but it doesn't seem like that was the case. So kind of odd the fact that this game is pushed back a little bit later, especially in a weird kickoff time. I mean, I don't usually see a 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific kickoff, especially on Saturday. But coming into this game, DC have a 4-1-6 record, while Toronto, they are definitely struggling with a 3-2-7 record, and I think they have like a 6-game winless run, or not a winning streak. They're in a 6-game winless run. I mean, TFC fans will wish that they're on a 6-game winning streak right now. But in terms of the all-time meeting, DC does lead the meeting 16, 10, and 12 over Toronto. In terms of players that is out for DC, you got Adrian Perez, Moses Naiman, Chris Odell Ishtim, and Dinaha Semeniaki, and then questionable is Nigel Roberto, who I thought he played in the last game. I mean, again, this is why I don't trust the league website in terms of looking at the injury report, because I can already tell when I did this, there were a couple of players that they put it on there, either questionable and out, and they basically played in the last game, and that obviously doesn't make sense unless if the players maybe got themselves injured in the last game, and that's why it's updated like that. Now for TFC, for a player that is out, you got Caden Chung, Jaquel Marshall Rutty, Chris Navinga, Noble Okello, and then questionable coming into this game, you got Jonathan Osorio, Alejandro Pozuelo, who again I thought he played in the last one too, and then you got Jacob Schaffelberg, also questionable coming into this game. And yeah, this is a game that, I mean, I don't want to say this is kind of the desperation derby with how both of these team record have definitely not been good, but you kind of sense that maybe for TFC, this is maybe an opportunity to get a win, because DC, I mean, DC, I would say that they have played much better, but you can see that in the last game they definitely got outclassed by a better opponent, and maybe now that they do play against a weaker team, especially at home, they could maybe get themselves another win. But like I said, for TFC, I know they have a lot of injuries to deal with, but you got a sense that they need to get something going. I mean, this season has really started to get away from them, after there was a lot of people talk about how maybe this season was going to be different compared to last year, and they were not going to be like what they were last season, which is sitting near the bottom of the Eastern Conference, and now it seems like that they're basically finding themselves in the same situation again. But now moving on to the next match, we got Nashville Sc versus Atlanta United, as that is the last game that's going to be happening on Saturday, and unsurprisingly, this one is on national television. And I mean, this is really the only time that we're going to see both of these teams play, because, Nashville is being back in the Western Conference and Atlanta, of course, in the Eastern Conference. Though next year, if Nashville does move back to the East with St. Louis coming into the league, we're going to see this matchup again. And it's always great to see this matchup when you have two Southeastern teams playing against each other. And I still don't know, like, they need to come up with a derby name in terms of it, because I know when both of these teams came into the league, I know MLS basically kind of decided to do their usual kind of forcing a geographical rivalry that takes time to develop. But now that it has taken time to develop, I think you can sense that there's definitely some rivalry between both of these teams. Now, this game will start at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 6:55 p.m. local time because, since this one is on Fox, the kickoff will be 25 minutes later than the original start time. Now, Nashville coming into this game with 5-3-4 record, while Atlanta, the record almost is similar, 4-3-4. And in terms of the all-time meeting, it's been pretty close. Nashville has won 3 wins in this one, and that Atlanta also won 2 games, and that there's 2 times that both of these teams have drawn against each other. Now, in terms of injuries for Nashville SC, you got Teal Bunbury, Robert Castellanos, Donna Sivino, Randall Leao, and Longmire not available for Nashville SC in this one. For Atlanta United, they also have some injury concern. Dylan Castanhill, let's see, what else? Joe, Ozzy Alonso, Brad Guzan, Miles Robinson, who of course we know that he's done for the year alongside with Brad Guzan. But one player that could maybe make his comeback is Joseph Martinez. Now, there is no timeline yet when exactly his comeback is going to be, and there's some that is doubtful that this is going to be the game that he's going to come back. But if he is, it maybe be a good time to do so, and also maybe just a reminder that this game is not playing at Nissan Stadium, but instead playing at this Park, because I'm pretty sure Joseph Martinez do not want to have any part of playing at Nissan Stadium. Consider that's basically the stadium that we saw him torn his ACL. Other player that might be returned for Atlanta, including Santi Sosa and Caleb Wiley for Atlanta United. But this should be a good matchup. And keep in mind, despite the fact that this is the only matchup between both of these teams have already met each other this season. I mean, in the U.S. Open Cup, both of these teams met not long ago, and Nashville was able to come from behind and win 3-2 in that one against Atlanta United. So we're going to see something similar to what we saw in the last game compared to this. Expect to be a very good game, and also expect to be a game where I think it's going to be sold out. I mean, so far Nashville has done a very good job in terms of filling up their stadium, which again, it's not surprising, because anytime when you have a new stadium, there is obviously that new stadium smell, and that the crowd is going to be packed every single week. But this is going to be a game that I expect there's not going to be a lot of empty seats, and we're also going to see some red and black and some Five Stripes fan, because again, anytime when Nashville play against Atlanta United, and even in that U.S. Open Cup, like that game, there was actually a large amount of fans in that game too. I mean, they didn't open the upper deck for that game, but I think the attendance was like something like 15,000, which is pretty good for a U.S. Open Cup. Consider U.S. Open Cup, usually the average attendance are like somewhere below like 10,000 fans in a game. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, we got Montreal versus RSL, as this is the first of what would be a 10-game action that's going to be happening on Sunday. Again, it's weird to see all these Sunday games that has happened, but that's how this week, of course, would work. But coming into this game, it's a 4 p.m. Eastern start, 1 p.m. Pacific, and 4:08 p.m. actual kickoff. Montreal has a 6-2-4 record, and they did suffer their first loss in 8 games after losing to Nashville SC, while RSL have a 5-4-3 record. And in terms of the all-time meeting, Montreal leads the meeting 4-2-2. As this is another matchup where it's a Western Conference team playing against an Eastern Conference team on the road, and it's always weird whenever you see these kind of matchup, because both of these teams don't really meet each other often. Now, in terms of injuries for Montreal, you got Galeno, Bjorn Johnson, and Mason Toy are the only 3 players out for Montreal. But for RSL, you got Zachary Farnsworth, Hasley, Eric Holt, Johnny Menendez, and Demar Krylak not available for RSL coming into this game. So, for Montreal, this could be an opportunity for them to bounce back against an RSL team that, this is not a team that do well on the road, and especially with how Montreal definitely want to avenge after what happened in the last game against Nashville. you know they're going to be up for it, and then I think they're going to be once again the favorite coming into this match. Now, moving on in terms of the next match is Charlotte FC versus the Vancouver Whitecaps. Now, I'm actually just jump straight into the injury report with Vancouver because, you know, the Whitecaps obviously will not have Kyle Alexander, Tristan Blackman, Thomas Assau, and Ryan Gull. But one player that they didn't list here on the injury list is Cody Cropper, and it turns out that we actually find out this morning that he is not available because of health and safety protocol, and that, yeah. The Whitecaps are out of goalkeepers, and this is where, I mean, they kind of jokingly talk about how, you know, they need a goalkeeper in this game, and, you know, I won't be surprised. Maybe they'll pull in a goalkeeper from the Whitecaps 2 team, because, again, you know, this is why I think now with MLS Next Pro, and especially with the way that I think you can definitely call on emergency player from your affiliates team, and I expect that's going to be the case for this game, where I'm pretty sure the Whitecaps is going to go with a goalkeeper that currently play for their affiliates in the MLS Next Pro, that is Whitecaps 2 in this one. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of an interesting ordeal, but it's also kind of an ordeal that we've seen a lot during the pandemic era, where there's time where there's teams that is down to like their third or even their fourth string goalkeeper, and even sometimes their fourth string goalkeeper went down with an injury, and they had to pull in an emergency goalkeeper from the USL. But I don't think that's going to be the case, at least in this game, for the Whitecaps, where they're going to be playing against Charlotte in this game, and the Whitecaps, of course, have a 3-2-6 record, while Charlotte have a 4-1-7 record. This game will start at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 5:08 p.m. local time. Again, anytime when Charlotte is playing against a Western Conference team, or any teams in the Eastern Conference, at least in the early part of the season, it is definitely going to be the first ever meeting, and that, of course, is the case. Now, for Charlotte, you got Vinicius Melo, Chris Hagen, Adam Armour, Jody Reyna, Pablo Cesiaga are all out in this game, and questionable coming in this game is Christian Fuchs. Now, when you look at how this game is going to turn out, I mean, I'm pretty sure Charlotte is going to be favorites coming into this one. They're looking to try to regain that title that they're trying to build Bank of America Stadium as a fortress. I mean, their fortress was kind of dented in the last game against Montreal, but again, you know, with how hot Montreal was when Charlotte played against them, there was no shame in terms of losing them at home. Especially, they also kind of looked good in that one, but, you know, they just weren't able to score the goals and also give up goals in crucial moment, and, you know, they're looking to try not to do that in this game against a Whitecaps team that, while they have been very good so far this season at home, they have been absolutely terrible on the road. Like, they are by far the worst team on the road this season, and that for Charlotte, this could be an opportunity to capitalize, especially if the Whitecaps are going to go with an emergency goalkeeper in this game. Now, moving on in terms of the next match, speaking of a team that is going to be heavy favorites at home, is NYCFC versus the Chicago Fire. So this game will start at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 5:08 p.m. local time. All-time meeting between both of these teams. Again, the reason why NYCFC is going to be heavy favorites is that when you look at the all-time meeting, is 8-5-3. Now, the bad news is this game is not playing at Yankee Stadium, because if this game was at Yankee Stadium, I'm pretty sure you can say that NYCFC have just won the free point sweepstake of the week, playing against the worst team in the Eastern Conference. But this game, of course, is going to be playing at Citi Field, and in terms of injuries so far for NYCFC, no Anton Tinnerholm for them, still recovering from the injury that he suffered last season. But questionable coming into this game is Martin Armandson and Tavon Gray. For the Chicago Fire, you got Spencer Ritchie, Cassis that are out for this game, and then questionable coming in this game, you got Rafael Schihos and Kasper Shabelko. That is questionable coming into this game for the Chicago Fire. But yeah, you know, for the Fire, they fought hard in the last game against the Red Bulls, and that it's kind of interesting the fact that they're playing another New York team this time, and I'm assuming most of those Fire players did stay in the New York area, because if you get to play against a New York team in one game, and then you have to play against another New York team on a short week, it makes pretty much sense that you might as well just stay in the New York area to play against NYCFC. But like I said, this is a game that with how hot that NYCFC has, and they're really chasing down in terms of the top spot in the Eastern Conference that currently owns by the Philadelphia Union, and most likely could do so because the Union does have a tough game this week, as I'll talk about a little bit later. They're going to be playing against the Portland Timbers. Yeah, there could be a case that NYCFC could be at the top of the Eastern Conference after all things are done. But now moving on in terms of the next match, and speaking of the other New York team, we got the New York Red Bulls playing against Inter Miami on the road, and this is good news for the Red Bulls, at least for their fans, is because they're back on the road. I mean, again, this is still very strange. The fact that they have now getting to a point where, I said before it's been very strange and it's kind of very bipolar with the way that they just somehow do well on the road and they suck at home. But yeah, last week they broke the record for becoming the first team to ever win six or go unbeaten in their first 6 games, but also go winless in their first 6 games at home. Now, coming into this game against Inter Miami, Miami has a 3-3-6 record, while the Red Bulls have a 5-5-2 record. And this game will start at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 6:08 p.m. local time. And, in terms of the all-time meeting, the Red Bulls will definitely fancy that they have a chance to win another one here because they do have a good record against Miami, 3-0-1, including the last time that the Red Bulls play against Miami. They absolutely demolish Inter Miami at their own stadium. 4-1 was the final score of that game. But the injuries for Miami, you got Ian Frime, Joe Vinchon, Nick Marsman, Victor Uyola, Robbie Robinson, and then questionable in this game is Ozuna. For the Red Bulls, you got Andres Reyes, Wiki Carmona, Muzzoni, and Ashley Fletcher that is not available for this game for the Red Bulls. But like I said, this is a chance for the Red Bulls to continue probably the most odd and most strange season so far with them continue to look like a team that can do well on the road. And again, I mean, I try many times to see is it because of the style that they play. I mean, there's times where they're still kind of a pressing team, but there's also time that they kind of look good on the transition. But even then, even the best transition team in the world doesn't win every single game, or at least win most of their game on the road, and do not do well when they play at home. I mean, it still just makes no sense whatsoever. But hey, if they want to continue that trend, they have a good chance in this one against an Inter Miami team that, again, they're starting to become very unpredictable. Like, this Inter Miami team has started becoming a team, especially after in the last game where I thought they played relatively well against the Philadelphia Union, but just could not put away their chances. Again, it started to get to a point where you just don't know what you're going to get with this Inter Miami team, especially in the last 2 games. They actually have played decently, but both times they weren't able to walk away with a win. But that being said, I am now going to switch board and look at the 6 remaining games that's going to be happening on Sunday. But yeah, moving on, in terms of the next game, is FC Dallas versus Minnesota. So, despite the fact that the Loons does have a good record against FC Dallas recently, with them going unbeaten against Dallas in the last 5 games, this might be finally the game that their unbeaten streak come to an end, because they're facing against an FC Dallas team that I think they're going to be pretty angry after the last game where it kind of got away from them against Vancouver, where they look comfortable with a 1-0 lead after halftime, and then the second half basically kind of got away from them, especially in the last 20 minutes. Now they have a record of 6-4-2 compared to Minnesota has a 4-3-5 record. This game will start at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 6:08 p.m. local time. All-time meeting, Dallas and Minnesota both have 5 win apiece and 2 draw apiece. But in terms of players that's out for FC Dallas, you got Martinez, Paz, and also Alan Velasco not available for Dallas. For Minnesota, you got Patrick Vey, Romain Métanire, and Hassani Dotson unavailable for this Loons team. And again, with how much that Minnesota has really struggled in these last couple of games, and especially in terms of scoring against a Dallas team that, whenever they play at home, that's one of the reasons why they've been so good this season, is that their home form has been incredible. I mean, I don't think they have lost a home game so far this season. And, when you don't lose at home and you're also able to get points at home, it's no surprise why they are one of the best team in the league. And I expect this should be a win for Dallas, and that definitely does not not how Minnesota calls. Where again, this is why the last game against the Galaxy, it was so important for them to get a win in that one, because now, heading into this game against Dallas, it's going to be hard to do. And you also wonder, with the way that Minnesota does have a midweek game in the U.S. Open Cup, do Adrian Heath dare to punt this game away? I mean, the midweek game in the U.S. Open Cup is against Union Omaha, who is the lowest ranked team right now in the U.S. Open Cup, playing the third tier. But if there's one thing we know about the U.S. Open Cup this season, is that it have definitely created some big upsets. So, I wonder whether if he's going to think about punting the game. And maybe this is getting to a point where when you see some of these teams that's not doing well in the league, but if they are making a potential deep run in the U.S. Open Cup, some of these teams might shift their focus on the U.S. Open Cup instead of league play. But we'll see whether or not that is the case for Minnesota. And that, again, I don't have a lot of hope, the fact that they're going to get anything out of this game against FC Dallas. Though one team that I definitely have a lot of hope of getting something out of it, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is really the first time that I actually feel like the Quakes can maybe get something out of this game, and maybe even get a win in this one, because the Quakes, they have been red hot in these last couple of games. They're 5-1-1 under Alex Cavallo ever since Almeida is fired, and they're playing against a Sporting KC team that, although they did get a much needed win in the last game against the Colorado Rapids, it come with a price, because they won't have Daniel Sharaway in this game because of the red card, and they also won't have Fontas in this game because of a red card in the last one. And that, yeah, again, when you don't have two of those players, especially Sharaway, one of the guy that well, he hasn't had the best season so far. He's at least tried his best to score the goals, and especially in the last game, he was really the only offense for this Sporting KC team. And again, against a Quakes team that, this season, or at least in these past couple of games, they have been a red hot team, not only in terms of winning, but also scoring goals too. I mean, they've scored like 6 goals in the last 2 games, and that they're really firing on all cylinder right now on that attack. Now, this game will start at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 4:38 p.m. local time. All-time meetings, Sporting KC does have a slight edge, 31-9 and 27 over the Quakes. But in terms of injuries, the only players out for the Quakes is George Asamani. But for Sporting KC, players that is out, you got Alan Polito, Gadi Kinda, Ozzy Cisneros, and questionable coming into this game include Nicholas Isma Marine, Graham Zuzi, and Kyrie Shelton for Sporting KC in this one. And again, this is a game for the Quakes that, this is really the first time that I actually kind of had hope that this is a winnable game for them. And watch out now that means that they're probably not going to get a result. I mean, the good news is I'm actually not at the stadium for this game, which, again, I know the curse officially ended against the Timbers, but let's just pretend that maybe was a fluke, and the fact that, yeah, with me not being at the stadium, that means the Quakes would guarantee a win, right? I mean, after all, they're playing against a Sporting KC team that is nothing like the previous Sporting KC team, and that I know, even though the Quakes do struggle against Sporting KC, this is probably the weakest Sporting KC team we've seen probably since 2019, and in that season, they absolutely demolished Sporting KC at home. I mean, they won 4-1 in that game, so I expect this could potentially be the same case. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is Austin FC versus Orlando City. So, coming in this game for Austin, there's no doubt that, it will be very interesting to see how they are able to come off of an emotional victory against LAFC, because, anytime when you come off an emotional victory and a statement win like what Austin did in the last game against LAFC to now be at the top of the Western Conference and also leading the Supporters' Shield standing, you're going to have a letdown. And, even if they're playing at home in this game against an Orlando City team that, surprisingly, this team, it almost is kind of similar to the New York Red Bulls, where for whatever reason, this team has been doing very well on the road. And that's never have been the case for this Orlando team. Like, this Orlando team is never known as one of the best road team, but at least this season, they're kind of showing that. And they have a 6-2-4 record, with Austin have a 7-2-3 record. This game will start at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. In fact, this is one of 3 games that will start at that same time. But all three of these games actually kick off in different time zone. In this case, it's Central Time Zone, 7:08 p.m. local time. And this, of course, is the first ever meeting between both of these teams. Again, anytime when Austin does play against an Eastern Conference team, and knowing that this is only their second season, they're going to have a lot of first ever meeting against Eastern Conference team. Now, for Austin, the only player that is injured is Frederick Kleeman. But for Orlando City, you got Antonio Carlos, Sylvester van der Water, and Benji Michel not available for Orlando City. But yeah, this should be a very interesting matchup, and it could be a matchup where, for Austin, they're going to have to try to break down this very stingy Orlando defense, because we know this season for Orlando, it seemed like the tactics for Oscar Pereira on the road this season has been just sit back and defend and hope that they can sneak with a goal out of a road game. And for most part, that seems that it has worked out. I mean, again, feels like Oscar Pereira is trying to use the Gary Smith approach, which is, trying to be compact and trying to sit deep on the defense and hope to score a goal to get all 3 points. And, against an Austin team that, again, they need to stay focused coming into this game, because it's very easy to have that letdown after that massive win against LAFC. And if they can stay that focus and be professional in this one, they should get another win in this one against Orlando City. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is the Colorado Rapids versus the Seattle Sounders. So for the Sounders, they do have an opportunity to finish the week with a 9-point week, which anytime when you finish a week with a 9-point week is definitely a good thing. But they are playing against the Colorado Rapids team that, keep in mind, this Rapids team have not lost a home game ever since last year when they lost to Austin FC, and they are coming into this game really putting up their I think 23 game unbeaten streak at home at stake against a team that is clearly making your predictable second half resurgence, that is the Seattle Sounders. Now coming into this game with the Rapids, they're 4-3-5, while the Sounders have a 4-1-5 record. This game will also start at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 6:08 p.m. local time. All-time meeting, Seattle has a 22-4-7 record over the Rapids. But in terms of injuries, you got Brian Galvan, Abubakar Keita, and Lara is not available for the Rapids. For the Sounders, they only have João Paulo and Jackson Reagan not available for this game. In fact, we know João Paulo is not going to be available for the Sounders for a very long time because of the Achilles injury that he suffered in that CCL final. But nevertheless, this is a game for the Rapids. Like I said, this is probably going to be the toughest home game that they're going to be facing this season, because the Sounders team, they have the momentum. Though I will say that, since this is the third game in 7 days, and the same goes for the Rapids, at least the Rapids does have that home field advantage. And again, there's a reason why the Rapids have been very good at home this season. Like, when you play in altitude, it can really cause problem for you, and especially for a Sounders team that, like I said, it's the third game in 7 days, and you have to play in altitude in that third game in 7 days. It is not a fun thing to deal with. So we'll see whether they can maybe overcome that and maybe hand the Rapids their first loss at home in the past 24 matchup. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is the Aoe Galaxy versus the Houston Dynamo, aka the game that Galaxy fans do not want to hear them play, because it feels like for the Galaxy, every time when they play the Dynamo, it's like, oh god, here we go again. We are literally playing against the team that is basically our bogey team, and a team that has cost us nightmares in terms of decision day kind of type of game. And keep in mind, I did actually look at some of the decision day game, and I have some bad news for Galaxy fans. You're playing the Dynamo on decision day. I mean, that it feels like the league is now just openly trolling the Galaxy by putting them against the Houston Dynamo, knowing the fact that it seemed like they're on their way in terms of another heartbreak on decision day. Now, coming into this game, the Galaxy does have a 6-2-4 record, while Houston have a 4-3-5 record. And keep in mind, for Houston, this is the first of 4 games that they're going to be playing on the road. But at least the good news is, the first of 4 games that they play is against one of their favorite opponent, that is the Aoe Galaxy. But in terms of the kickoff, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 5:08 p.m. local time. All-time meeting, the Galaxy does have a 15-10-12 record over Houston. But in terms of player that is out, you got Sedania and Jorge Villafania out for the Galaxy. And for Houston, surprisingly, they have nobody that is out with an injury, which I don't know, should I believe that or not? I mean, I probably don't believe that. I'm pretty sure there are a player that is out for the Dynamo, because, you know, if that's the case, they're the only team that doesn't actually have any injuries on their roster. But, you know, like I said, for Houston, at least, you know, in their brutal 4-game road trip that they're going through, they get to play against their favorite opponent. And for the Galaxy, you know that you know, this is not going to be an easy game for them, even if they're playing at home, because when you play against a bogey team, you know, it definitely get into the mind of some of these player, and we'll see whether or not if they can overcome that mental problem with them. Always tends to struggle when they play against the Houston Dynamo and get all 3 points in this one. But now moving on into the last game on this board is the Portland Timbers versus the Philadelphia Union, and I swear, the Timbers, I mean, they have just so many national televised games this season, and I forgot to even put that this is another national televised game, as this one is going to be on FS1. Like, feels like every single week they're on national television, and it's the case once again in this one, as this one will be a late kickoff, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:25 p.m. local time. So anytime when you have that late of a kickoff in the East Coast, you know, maybe there's going to be some MLS after dark moment that can happen in this one. Now, coming into this game, the Timbers have a 3-6-4 record, while the Union have a 5-5-1 record, and maybe you could say that this is kind of the desperation derby of the week, because neither of these teams have been playing well lately. You know, we know the Timbers still off to that slow start after losing again in the last game against the Quakes. And then the Philadelphia Union, I mean, you know, after that incredible start to the season, this team have now gone 6 games without a win. Actually, no, they haven't gone 6 games without a win. I think they have now gone 7 games without a win after they won their first 5 games of the season. Or actually, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, they are 6 games without a win, because, you know, they did drew opening day and then they went on a 5-game winning streak. But all-time meeting, the Timbers does have the edge, 7-3-2 over the Union. And in terms of injuries for this Timbers team, you got Blake Bontley, Claudio Bravo, George Fashiva, Gutierrez, Laris Mabiola, Felipe Mora, and Yaroslav Nishgoda not available for the Timbers. For the Union, only player that is questionable coming in this game is their star striker, Michael Arud. And again, you know, this is a game that both teams are desperate in terms of getting all 3 points. And you know, if you ask me who desperately need the 3 points more in this desperation derby, I would say it has to be the Portland Timbers. I mean, as much as I know the Union fans are kind of panicking with the way that this team all of a sudden cannot find themselves getting wins, at least they're not losing games. I mean, at least they've only lost once this season, and as long as you're not losing game, you're always in that contention for the playoffs. But as the old saying goes, if you keep drawing games and not able to get all 3 points, you're also find yourself slipping down the table too. And you know, at least for the Union, they haven't slipped down the table. They actually, ironically, regained that top spot after they got a draw in the game against Inter Miami. But they know that if they don't get something out of this game, or even a win out of this game, NYCFC is right there. Like, NYCFC is only 1 point behind, and that they could actually slide as far as, I think, 3rd position if they do lose this game against the Portland Timbers. But either way, that is pretty much it in terms of the preview for all 14 of these games. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these games? And as always, let me know in the comments your prediction for all 14 games that's going to be happening in match week number 12. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.